Good morning, everybody. How are you? Welcome to the Sunday Sunday studio. Thanks for joining us.
Happy Sunday, Sunday.
It's happy Sunday Sunday. We're just hanging out, the three of us today, chit-chatting and trying to pin down a topic, and decided we would just hit record and just let the conversation flow, because we've all had some things on our minds between difficult interactions with various family members, continuing, the challenges of our aging parents and the day-to-day tasks that come with that. We've also been talking about how relationships can change and do change over time. So we're just going to talk and let the conversation flow. So
Here we are.
Yeah. With our coffee, because we're all a little bit tired this morning. So
tired. Yeah. I mean,
Yes,
school's out for summer and schedules are completely changing, and it's a lot. Schedules are out of whack right now.
I was telling a friend last night, I was like, God knew that they needed to put women in menopause, because I have my granddaughters right now, everybody, and one is just under 2 and the other one's 7. And at almost 50, I don't want to be running around. So I couldn't imagine accidentally getting pregnant at 60. God's like, no, you don't have that energy. We're going to go ahead and put a halt to this at a certain age. So right now you're going to hear coughing in the background because I have my grandbabies are sick. My kids are only 18 months apart, and they were really close in age. And so I was a single mom for the most part. Their dad was present physically, but it was hard. It was hard. And I had the energy, right? So, but yeah, the energy it takes. So I was up late. The girls went to sleep at a decent hour. And then I looked at the clock because it was 2:40. And then I looked at the clock again and it was 5:30, because I didn't want the alarm to wake the girls up so we could record this morning. But one kept tossing and turning, and she has a rhinovirus and she's struggling with breathing. And
so they're in bed with you?
A lot. Yes, because I'm at my dad's house.
So they're both in the bed with you. Oh my God.
In the king size bed. Yeah.
Take your vitamin C, woman. I mean,
And
it's pretty contagious, isn't it? It's like the flu, right?
Yep. They said it is. I'm just hoping my Wonder Woman and superhero powers would just keep me from getting sick.
Well, as we were mentioning earlier, talking about changing relationships, my husband and I had our 15-year wedding anniversary this last week. When was it? It was on Thursday.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Did I not know this? Did you say something?
I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So you guys know we spent quite a bit of time apart. Well, not quite a bit of time, but 5 years. We lived apart for 5 years. We continued to stay connected and spend time together and support each other, but we did, choose to live apart for an extended period of time. And we didn't really do much for the anniversary. We went to a local spa here that I really enjoy, and we just soaked there for a couple of hours.
Oh, spa.
Caliente? Yeah, the spa.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know if you said spot or spa. I was like,
spa.
Spa.
The spa. We were fancy. And then we just went out for a steak dinner, and we just mentioned to the bartender he offered me another drink. And I was like, yeah, it's our anniversary. I'll have another drink. He was like, oh, congratulations. And he's like, what's the secret? And I thought about it for maybe 5 seconds, and I said, separate bedrooms.
Oh, God.
And we don't have separate bedrooms. But I just, thought about the fact that we did spend some time apart. And I think sometimes having that separate space, maybe not to the extent that we chose to do it, but sometimes I need a break from my husband, whether that's sleeping in a separate bedroom, just going on vacation by myself, which I have done and probably will do again, or just getting away for the weekend with you ladies. I think having a little bit of separation is a healthy thing. I need time to reset. I need time sometimes just for quiet reflection. I've always been introverted. That's how I reset. That's how I can recharge my batteries. I need to be quiet. I need to be on my own. And even if that's just for like a night. And sometimes my husband, he likes to watch TV. He likes to listen to stuff, sometimes late into the night. And I'm a very light sleeper. So if he knows he's going to be up, he just chooses to. We don't have a separate, we just have a 2-bedroom. One's the office, but he likes to lay on the couch. So sometimes he'll lay on the couch and he'll end up sleeping there. And I appreciate that, because I need, again, being a super light sleeper, I need that quiet. I can even hear if I can hear the music or whatever he's listening to through his headphones, I'm just like, I need you to shut that off. I need you to shut that off. So even though I didn't mean to say, separate bedrooms is the secret to a happy marriage, I do think that, at least in our relationship, having a little bit of separation in space and in time is helpful. And for me, necessary to keep our relationship thriving. So,
Well, and that makes sense because, I mean, you didn't get married super young. Like, you lived independently and on your own probably longer than you've actually been married
mhm.
as an adult,
Oh,
raising
yeah,
your daughter on your own and maybe dating here and there. But as far as the way that you've run your household and as far as like how your bedroom has been, you've probably had that space to yourself longer than you've been married. So that makes sense. Like, you develop habits and you like things a certain way,
I do.
and we all develop those habits into adulthood. Because, like, for me, it's totally different. Aaron and I have been coupling or best friends since we were like 13 years old. And like, he's the only man I've ever lived with. I really don't know like my adult life without him.
It's true.
So I'm like totally opposite. Like, I don't, I don't want to say that we're like a habit, but we are like really
Like
used to each
codependent?
other. Like, when he had another job and he was traveling all the time, it was really hard. Like, I didn't get a whole lot of sleep. And I feel like that's how the co-sleeping started with all our kids, is because it's like, "Oh, daddy's gone. We're gonna sleep in daddy's room and we're gonna sleep with mom." Or, there was one time that there was like a crib at the foot of my bed or a crib like right next to me. It just made sense because with breastfeeding and everything, like, it just made sense for us to be in the same room. And I remember when the kids were little and we would travel and stay in hotels, the girls especially would always be like, "Why don't we set up our house like this? Like, 2 big beds right next to each other and we all sleep together all the time. Like, why don't we do this at home?"
Our sister did that. Do you remember? Our older sister did that. She believed in co-sleeping, and they did end up with 2 king size beds in there. Thankfully, they had a big enough bedroom. But yeah,
Mhm.
her husband had his own bed, and she had her bed in the
Bed with the
for
kids.
yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like that's the best advice that I got from a doctor when I had young babies, is to keep your baby arm's width away. Like, they're literally going from being a part of your body to being out of your
Mm,
body. And so many parents like put them in their own room and have them like become very independent by the time they're like a few weeks old. And the doctor that I saw was a midwife, and she was like, "No, you should keep your baby only arm's width away for at least the first year, just because it makes it easier for you and they know to trust you and that they can depend on you, and
yeah.
like that's okay." But I mean, I'm not trying to say parent a certain way, but I do feel like that's why we are such a close family. But it is difficult at times when like we're away, like when we go on our girls' trips or when Aaron travels or whatever. He doesn't anymore, but it makes it challenging to sleep without him.
Now with my
Yeah.
new job, I'm traveling at least every other week, and for me, like, that little reprieve,
It's like a break.
it's like a break, yeah, it's a reset, and I'm not gonna lie, I do kind of enjoy it. I know it's harder for him. Like you said, Caroline, I mean, I've been so independent since I was a very young child. It was hard for me to be married, to go from living independently and, like you said, kind of running my own space to now having to mesh a household. And those are things that I think you don't always navigate when you're single and having the conversations about being married. I don't think that you necessarily, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe some couples do, but have those conversations about how are we going to, like, what's your morning routine versus what's my morning routine? What do I need for sleep and what do you need for sleep? Like, I like to be a little bit warm falling asleep, but then I end up throwing the covers off. And how do you sleep? Those are conversations that I don't know that they necessarily always happen when you're
Mm-mm.
ready to go into like a married or living together situation. And I say this all the time. It's those little things that can really break a relationship.
'Cause they stack. Yeah. They
I
Mhm.
build
agree with
up.
you. I was married and one of my husbands a couple times. So when I say one of my husbands, one of my exes, he would stay up late video gaming, like late. And I'd go to bed alone. Then when I moved into another relationship, he wanted to go to bed at the same time. He woke up a lot earlier than me, but he wanted to go to bed at the same time, which I was like, that's weird. And then he wanted to watch TV and I don't like TVs in my bedrooms. Like
Yeah.
that's my place to sleep. That's my place to rest. Sometimes I regret that decision when I'm sick, but overall I don't have a TV. I don't keep a TV in my bedroom. So, and then when I went to my other relationship, I was like, I want to go to bed at the same time. And he thought that was kind of weird. And so, yeah, those are the conversations that you have.
Need to have.
Mm.
Yeah.
I always
Simple things.
wonder how our dad has made it work. his longest relationship is with his current wife. And when I think about surrendering to a marriage, I think about my dad because he is married to a woman who owns her own business, is very independent, here, moved out here away from her family from one state to Colorado and built her life on her own very successfully and married my dad. I don't think she'd ever been married before. Married my dad well into her 30s, or were they already 40?
I believe she was 40. Mhm.
So my dad going from, one marriage and then being single and then to her, like he knew how to be married and like coexist and like surrender to the ways of his wife, right? But I wonder often, like, how it was for our mom to, like, surrender her ways to his way of living. And honestly, I think, like, all the private stuff, they keep it super separate. Like, my dad has his own bathroom, his own shower. I do think they sleep in the same they sleep
They
in the
do.
same room, right? It's just interesting because I feel like when Aaron and I moved in together, like, our biggest challenge as far as, like, the personal stuff was we gotta brush our teeth at different times because it's hard to spit into the same sink. And like, you like some of us want like room in the mirror to like brush your teeth. And we've never lived in like super big houses or big spaces. Like we've never lived somewhere where you have like two bathroom sinks and like two mirrors. Like everything has been shared.
Mm.
But for my parents, I feel like they didn't really learn how to share all of those spaces. So it's just interesting. I think age has a lot to do with it, like how independent you've lived prior to getting married and if you got married super young.
My ex pointed that out. He used to say stuff like, "Oh, I just think that we're just used to doing things our own way." It was more of a cop out to say that it wasn't working because we're just used to doing things our own way. And I
Mhm.
disagree with that. For me, I can make accommodations for my marriage, and you have to decide what's important. Is your marriage important? Just because
Yeah.
I'm almost 50, that doesn't mean that I am incapable of change. It
Mm.
doesn't mean that I am incapable of a compromise. And so when I hear stuff like that, this is just how it is. And we're just used to doing things our own way. Yes, I'm used to squatting when I pee. That's probably not going to change. Some women can do it when they stand up, but that's something that I'm probably not going to change or compromise on. But the other things like, taking shifts when you're brushing your teeth or going to bed at different times. Because in that relationship, sometimes I'd go to bed at a different time. Usually we went to bed at the same time, but there still has to be those compromises. And so kind of when Paula started here, we talking about how relationships change and evolve, that just doesn't only go for marriages, that goes for friendships too. And
Oh,
sometimes you
100%.
outgrow friendships. I was thinking about a friend last night and she was a great friend. And then I loaned her money and then she didn't pay the money back.
Mm.
And there's a there's a saying that if you loan your
Mhm.
friend money, basically you have to be prepared to lose that friendship or lose the money, one or the
Yeah.
other. And so I'm no longer friends with her. But I was just thinking about how those relationships change too. Our friendships change, just like they do with our kids. Every relationship should change and evolve, though I hope
Mm.
as we get older.
Yeah, have you seen that quote or GIF where it's like a butterfly and a worm looking at each other, and the worm looks at the butterfly and says, "You've changed," and the butterfly says, "Yeah, we're supposed to." Have
I
you seen
love
that?
that.
It's really cute.
I love
Yes.
that. No, I think I have
Yes.
seen that.
I've
I also
seen
saw
that.
one where, what is it? A butterfly gets pulled over and the cop is looking at his ID and it's a
It's the
caterpillar. The
caterpillar.
butterfly says, "That's an old photo."
That's a good one.
That's hilarious.
That's a good one.
Well, and
Yeah,
that's like such a prime example of like, change is growth. Like there are some people that really don't like change. There are things that I don't like change in. And when those moments come up, like having kids graduate or having kids move out or having kids go to college or your marriage shifting or your friendships shifting, like I have to remind myself change is growth. Like this means that growth is happening somewhere, even though maybe I feel like I'm being left behind. Like they're changing, they're growing, they're moving on, they're trying to find their way in the world. And that's a good thing, right? Like that's where that saying comes from. Like, expand your wings. You got to let them fly or teach them to fly. And those are all good things. Just have to be reminded sometimes.
I think sometimes we just expect the youth to evolve and change. Like, oh,
right.
you've lived your life just be happy with where you're at and what you're doing. Like, just because you're transitioning from high school to college or to explore the world, you're not stuck in this box of 20s are the years that you explore and you grow and you change. We can continue to do that throughout our life, and I'm trying to do that stuff even now, at almost 50, even now. I want to, you guys know about some of my ventures that I want to take on. We just have to keep doing it. Don't stay stagnant, evolve.
Absolutely. And I think that's really important, especially for you, Lena, and Aaron, who's not on, and Minu. You've got the kids that are transitioning out of the home and spreading their wings, like you said, starting their own journeys, or taking the next steps in their journeys. And I think it's important to remember, just like you were saying, Scoopalicious, that us as the parents, as the guardians, as the protectors, that doesn't mean that our life can't continue to change and evolve. And it should. It absolutely should. And I think there's a fair amount of freedom, right, that could come with this empty nester part of your life. I mean, for you, Lena, and Aaron too, you still have fairly young kids. They're going to be at home for a few more years. But I think it's an opportunity as our kids begin to spread their wings, for us to not forget that we have a life left to live, that life isn't defined by our children. And for me, that was part of wanting to create this podcast too, for all of us, was to have a place where we could maybe explore what is the next chapter of our life as women who are now, will always be mothers, of course, but maybe moving beyond that definition of I'm Paula, I'm Lena, I'm Scoopalicious, I'm Aaron, and I'm a mom. I'm a mom, and now I am, fill in the blank.
Having a total identity crisis because my kids don't live here anymore. That's going to be
Is
me.
is that what you feel like right now? Because
Not right now.
You've got almost 3 out of the home, not necessarily completely out of the home, but
I mean, a little bit. I do think that I'm going to have like a hard time figuring out like who am I when I'm not taking care of like my kids and trying to fulfill their needs here while they're still under my roof. I do feel like there's going to be a shift in like, who am I? What do I mean to myself? Like, where's my drive now without them being here?
That book that Paula had suggested that all of us read, Empowered Wife. In the book, she talks about having a hobby. And perhaps, Caroline, you can work on finding your hobby now. So but when the kids do transition out, you already have that established and you're not struggling to figure out, what do I do next? What now? Like, what do you like to do? Like, I enjoy paddleboarding. Savvy needs to get back on her saxophone. Aaron also likes paddleboarding. What is it that you like to do? And do that now and make it a routine now.
Yeah, I do need to do that.
What do you like to do?
I like to dance. I like to go dancing. That's why I'm really worried about this ankle. Like, if it doesn't get better, if it doesn't heal, if it's always going to pop, which is what my kids keep saying. The ones that have rolled their ankles are like, that's not ever going to go away. Like that popping and that discomfort, it doesn't ever go away. And I'm like, oh man.
Oh yeah. That's what I get my disability for, is my ankle. But my chiropractor told me, she goes, I can heal that. I can focus on your ankle. So, but I've consistently have had issues with my ankles since my initial role when I was in the service.
Yeah, I remember when we talked about that. Remember
so bad.
You told us about that at your basic training experience, where you had to grit through it.
Information.
It was AIT. Yeah, standing crutches, marching in crutches. It was awful. But you know what dancing reminds me of, Carolina? My nana and tata danced well into their 70s. They used to go to the club and dance to Mexican music. And it was a club for older people, right? It's not like not that kind of club.
Yeah.
So, but how fun
There's
would
so
that
many
be
birds.
to do that with Aaron? Just go out and you guys dance, and
I
that would be
know,
something
like,
fun to do together.
Yeah, I definitely want to. I mean, we talk about it all the time. We just haven't done it. And I was so sad. We went to a wedding last weekend and we couldn't dance. Like, we couldn't even two-step. And I was just like, this really sucks. And we have another wedding mid-July. And I'm like, I cannot go to another wedding and not dance.
You need to
That's
get
my
that ankle
thing.
handled.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Maybe check out the chiropractor, or maybe even acupuncture. That might help too.
That's true. Yeah, it'll get better. So,
but I also, when with your love of dancing, I see you like becoming like a bar instructor.
that would be so cool.
Or Zumba. Like, you'd be a great
That would
Zumba
be so
instructor.
fun.
You'd be so good at that.
Yeah. What is the senior groups, silver
Silver
sneakers.
sneakers, yeah.
The first
I
Zumba I ever went to was with Carolina, and I was so lost. She was like all over the place, and I was like,
Step,
so
touch, step,
uncoordinated.
touch.
I was all
and
sloppy. It was bad.
Grapevine. That's how I dance at the club now. I'm just
It
like,
was so
let me get my
fun.
Zumba on the club
Yeah.
on the dance floor.
My dad is 75 and he still goes to Zumba. He loves Zumba.
I know. He's so
Yeah.
cool.
He goes
Remember when
there.
Nina went with him?
That's
Didn't she go with him once?
when we
Yes.
were
Pueblo.
yeah,
Yeah.
when we were
She
all there
go.
last year recording. You guys,
Mhm.
what's the month? It's June, right? Our
Mhm.
podcast, August is going to be our 1-year anniversary. Today's
Oh my
actually episode
gosh.
45. This is our 45th
Wow.
episode.
That's wild.
We
Time
need to
goes by
start
so
getting in some
fast.
nitty gritty stuff.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
maybe that's something to kind of bring up. So we have a lot of personalities in this group, and some are introverts, some are extroverts, some are both. I'd
Mhm.
like to say that I'm kind of both. It kind of just depends on the situation, how safe I feel. I'm pretty open about talking about things. I have mentioned it before, and I'll say it again. My father does watch. So I do keep that in mind, but sometimes I forget because I try to be as authentic and legit as I can. And when we started this podcast, when Paula had invited me to partake in this, I thought it was a great opportunity to be just authentic and be who I am. And I really don't want to shy away from anything. You know, maybe of course keep some names out of conversations or whatnot. But overall, I want to be very authentic in how I speak and what I speak on. And this is giving me a space to do that. So thank you, Paul.
Thank you. And I do think that with certain topics, I think some of us might not be so comfortable. Like, we've had just a very, kind of generic conversation about how sex has changed as we get older. And I think some of us don't feel comfortable doing that. And we've always said just because it's 6 of us doesn't mean that all 6 of us always have to participate. So if the conversation isn't right for anyone in our group, they're just not here, and that's okay. But I'm with you, Shannon. I think it's good. There are things that I want to talk about too, but there are things that maybe affect, like you said, family members, especially. And I do think we have to be mindful and respectful that our conversations, affect other people. And we just have to be gentle with those boundaries.
Yeah, especially when it comes to relationships. We've
Mm.
all had our difficulties with relationships, whether it's family members or marriages or children or parents. So yeah, it is tricky. It is tricky.
Yeah.
But I'm
Be
with you. I
mindful of
mean,
our,
I think it's
our
good to be just be honest and raw about our topics. But I definitely have been one of the people in the nest that is a little bit more reserved. And there's just things that I'm definitely leave the past behind you kind of person. And sometimes our topics bring up things from the past that I'm just like, I don't want to talk about it because it's already behind me. I don't want to resurface these things because maybe I didn't deal with them in the most healthy way. And so I just don't want to talk about what I don't want to talk about. Or, looking back into past friendships or what life was like in high school or what life was like in my 20s or, things like that. It's like, well, I've moved forward from that. The person that I am now isn't the person that I was then, and change is growth. And why, bring that all up again. So I don't know. It is a little tricky for me, but I think we always do talk about how our childhood trauma episode was the one that was watched the most. That's the one that's gotten the most
right.
likes. And I think that's because that's where we all became very, very vulnerable and spoke on things that were hard.
And
So,
talk, kind of speaking about not talking about the past, that actually created healing.
mhm.
So I think it is important to talk about things in the past, maybe not necessarily for yourself, but maybe for somebody else who can be like, oh, I can relate to Lena. She went through this. Maybe I should take a different path listening to her advice or whatnot. And so I do think, that it's good to talk about it. I think dwelling in it is a little different than talking about it.
Oh, for sure.
So yeah, there is a subject I want to talk about too. And I don't, we live in a society where people get so hurt, and I don't mean hurt as in legitimately hurt. And I shouldn't say legitimate because, we all have our own levels of legitimacy when it comes to our feelings. But there are some things that I want to discuss further and dive into further, but some people might take things out of context. And so that's where, can we be who we authentically want to be while trying to protect other
Mm.
people? And I don't really want to protect this person, just so we know, but still, you know,
I think that if we are, if the conversations that we want to have are about other people. I mean, ultimately they're about us, but they involve other people. We just need to be, I don't know, maybe just ask permission, to have those conversations that are not necessarily where we are, the protagonist, but perhaps the protagonist is somebody that we are in relationship with, whether it's sisterhood or friendship or, a parental relationship. I just think we need to be mindful of maybe asking permission to have those conversations within this group and in this platform. And the answer might be no, you may not. So we'll just have those conversations without hitting record.
That's right. It'll stay in the group chat.
That's right. What else is on our minds?
I feel like we've kind of gone all over.
Yeah. Some of us are going to go see The Princess Bride on Monday, right?
At Red Rocks, Film on the Rocks. It's going to be fun. It's beautiful there. Have you done that before, Shannon, or is this going to be your first time?
It's going to be my first Film on the Rocks. I'm looking forward to it.
It's pretty cool. Usually they have like a comedian or something first, and then they play the movie because, they have to wait for it to get pitch black out. And yeah, it's fun. It'll be a good time.
The only time I've seen Film on the Rocks, we saw Jaws.
Oh, nice.
That was fun. So I hate that I'm going to miss Princess Bride, but I love that movie. That's such a
good movie.
Such an iconic movie.
So many great one-liners.
I know, right? That is my favorite movie.
Is it really?
Yes. It's.
What's your favorite line?
I know every line in that movie. Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my everybody loves that line.
Yeah.
When on my last, you guys remember Neverending Story, right?
Yeah.
On my last road trip, I swear I drove past the Swamp of Sadness.
Oh.
I looked over and I was like, I need to pull over and take a picture of this because a horse drowned over here. And it was very traumatic driving past the Swamp of Sadness.
That was the worst part of the movie. That was so sad.
Yeah, it was. That whole movie just traumatized our entire generation.
Yeah.
And what was the name he screamed out the window? Did we ever know what the name was? He screamed out the window at the last.
Oh,
he had
his mom's name.
Yeah, but what was his mom's name?
No.
You could never see. It's in the book.
I know, right?
The book is very, very different from the film. And I've heard that the author did not like the film adaptation of The Neverending Story. And that is you know what? I'm going to download that book. I've never read it.
That might be a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
We need to start a book club. We need to start reading a book together.
What am I just thinking about the Princess Bride? I loved the scenes where it was the three robbers or the three bandits, Inigo and the giant and the little man. What's his name?
Fezzik.
And
wasn't it Fezzik or something
like that? And they're rhyming.
Stop that rhyming!
I mean it. Anybody want a peanut?
It's such a great movie.
I love that. And then the ROUSS?
Rodents of Unusual Size.
God, that's a great movie.
Yeah,
you guys are going to have fun.
Yeah.
Well, all right. I don't know. Anything else? Sorry, I interrupted you, Carolina.
Oh, no, I just said I hope I can go.
I hope your
They don't have elevators at Red Rocks.
No, they sure don't. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you're not going to be able to go. No. For those of you who don't know, Red Rocks, you have to climb 1,000 steps. I don't know if it's literally 1,000 steps, but you have to climb a lot of steps to go up into the stadium. It's not stadium. What's the right word?
Arena?
Amphitheater.
Maybe?
Amphitheater.
Yeah, Red Rocks Amphitheater.
All right, ladies. Girls. Well, that was kind of a fun conversation, and we'll have more of the crew next time.
Otherwise, we are going to have a conversation about reliability.
Yeah, that was a topic that we thought about talking about. Reliability and honoring your commitments. Things happen. Well, thank you so much, everybody out there, for joining us and listening to the Sunday Sundae podcast. Leave us a comment, leave us a like, and have a happy Sunday Sunday.
Adios.
Bye.